Hi, I'm Dave, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to take a Mitsubishi and remember the 90s. Well, I don't know about remember the 90s, I remember some of it. Anyway, this is the Avant Slot Mitsubishi Galant VR4. It's in the white Rally Art livery. It is my first pre-built Avant Slot car. I have got that Mark 1 Golf GTI, which was a kit that I built and painted. But this is, as I say, my first pre-built one. So this is going to be an adventure and a journey for all of us. Now, first impressions of this car outside of the plastic box is the detail on it is really, really very good indeed. The front grille has a lovely lattice effect badge in there. It's good overall level of fit and finish. The wheels have vented brake discs and brake calipers, although the calipers do go round with the wheels, so I don't think you can get round that on a slot car. Generally, the levels of detail are brilliant. The twin exhaust pipe from the back box is correct. All the badging is correct. It is, yes, it's a high quality product, this for sure, just from point of view of looking at it. And by way of a change, it has a screw in the bottom rather than one of these kind of horrible plastic things that some of the other manufacturers do that hurt your hands to get them off. So, nice and easy. And the first thing to say really is this car is incredibly light. Now it's got a motor pod in the back that seems to have 4 screws to help adjust it. It's got a 4-wheel drive system which seems to run with a elastic band. And there seems to be a fair amount of play in the body posts, just as this car is set up. So it looks like there's quite a lot of interesting things you can do to adjust this car as we go along. But yeah, let's take a look at it on the turntable and I'll tell you why I'm a fan of this car. So here it is. This one is probably a 1991, I would say. This is the 6th generation of Mitsubishi Galant. It was made between 1987 and 1992. They made a variety of them. The VR4 was a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged car with 4-wheel drive and, curiously, 4-wheel steer. It was a very primitive system that used sort of lateral torsion in the rear wheels to turn a miniature steering rack. So the rear wheels twisted about 1, maybe 1.5 degrees in either direction. I know all of this because I used to have one and it was white. And it was exactly this model. They did a kind of coupe version, but that wasn't as popular. These cars these days are near enough impossible to find. I looked and looked and I can't find one for sale anywhere. There was a similar looking one which was a facelift, which was on eBay a little while ago, but I think that has gone now. As I say, this car, well, my version of this car was made in 1990. I bought it in about 1996, and I had it till about 2002, I think. And it was an absolute dream to drive. Fully loaded, electric everything, as a road-going version rather than a rally version. And it literally fitted me like a glove. I sat in it, and everywhere I wanted to put my hands to find a switch or whatever was where it was. It was just a natural fit. I've never sat in another car and felt so immediately at home in it. And an incredible thing to drive, really quite a large car, but because of the way it was 4-wheel drive and it was separated with limited slip diff front to rear, and it had the 4-wheel steer system, it handled incredibly. It handled as well as a car. It was as nimble, I would say, as a car half its size. I really do regret having to sell it, but unfortunately, water got in under the windscreen and it dripped on the ECU and turned it into a big furry pile of corrosion, and I'm afraid that was that for that car at that point. This particular one, as a slot car, seems to have 2 screws at the front and 1 at the back to hold the body on to the chassis. Now let's take a bit of a look inside here. This is a super light body shell, really, really is. And the interior, again, also a high lightweight, what they call flooded cockpit, so you've only kind of got from the nipples upwards of the drivers. Yes, and it doesn't look like anything's going to rattle. It looks like a very well put together piece of kit. Onto the chassis. This is a very interesting thing. As you can see, you've got the four-wheel drive system, which is just two pulleys and an elastic band. We will see if that makes any difference or whether that is just cosmetic in a little while. Brass rear bushings for the axle, metal gears, inline motor. I'm just having a look. I don't think there's any bushings in the front axle. No, there isn't. But you do get two machine screws in the top to adjust the axle height. And there is space, but not screws, but there's holes in the bottom, so you can adjust it upwards as well. But we'll see how that goes. Looking at it at the moment, it seems to be set quite nicely, straight out of the box. The pod, as I'm looking, there's two screws at the back and there's two screws at the front, but I think you just loosen the two screws at the back and the front of the pod just there. Let me have a look. Yeah, that's just a clamp to hold the front of the pod, which has a post which rocks underneath that green clamp, and I think you just adjust the rear two pod screws to change the float. Let me just undo them quite a bit so we can have a look. Yes, there you are. You can see the whole pod rocks from side to side on that front pivot point. That's quite interesting. The rest of the chassis is super lightweight and flexible as well. So bearing in mind this car is really designed as a slot rally car, there's quite a lot of scope. You can also put in left or right hand angle winder configuration as well, by the looks of it. There is a small magnet just in front of the motor in the centre of the car. We'll try the car with that in, and we'll take it out later and try it again just to see what the difference is. So I'll just oil this up as you would, and then, because this is what you'd call a hobbyist car, not a home set car, I'm just going to check to see how well it's been set up from the factory. Some cars need more work than others, as we have seen on this channel in the past. But having squared the car up on the setup plate, I can see that the rear wheels are indeed equidistant from the centre of the car, and the front wheels are equidistant from the centre of the car. So I would say that's set up pretty well from that point of view. Looking at it from the side, yeah, the ride height's not too bad. Oops. And to just check that the front axle height is adjusted nicely, I'll take the elastic band off and we'll just see. Yes, the wheels do touch, but only just. So I'll pop the band back round and we'll put this back together. And we'll see how it runs on the track out the box. Okay, so initial impressions are, you can tell it's a magnet car, but it doesn't seem to be a very strong magnet. And given the inline motor, that also doesn't seem to be, it doesn't seem to be as magnetic as I was expecting. You can get a certain amount of breakaway with the rear end even as it stands. It's an interesting thing to drive with four-wheel drive. I found after a while of trying this, you can, because of the way the front wheels pull the car around as well, you can really throw the back end of the car out at the end of a corner and effectively make the straight one whole car length longer, which I can see would make you some time. Took me a little while to get the hang of it, but as you can see, a few laps in now, and I'm really starting to get into the rhythm with this car, able to drift it out of that last corner there. Oops. So, a couple of things I'm going to do now. I was happy with that. We got to 6.5 seconds on that track straight out of the box, which was good. I have subsequently taken the guide spring out. There's a spring between the chassis and the guide just to push the guide down, which is good for slot rally, I'm sure, where you have an uneven surface, but I don't really need it on this track, and I can rely on just gravity. The magnet, I've now whipped that out. It is only, as I say, a very tiny magnet indeed. And other than that, we might take the band off and just try the car in just rear-wheel drive format at some point, but I'm not sure. I think it was designed to be four-wheel drive. It's probably going to perform best as four-wheel drive. Right, so magnet out, spring out under the guide, and we'll put this back together. So back on the track, obviously you can see without the magnet in, it is a little bit more tail happy, but at the same time it's incredibly well balanced. With the magnet in, like a lot of cars, it didn't give you a lot of warning that it was going to de-slot or tip over beforehand. But without the magnet in, it's much more compliant round the corners. It's less likely to de-slot. And it can get better flow with the car, is my feeling. Certainly on this track. I mean, yes, it's a rally car. It's not really designed for a smooth Carrera track. But it does run rather well on it. I like this because this is a car I think you should get if you want to get into tuning a bit, because unlike some of the cars that need tuning, it ran really well out of the box. Somebody took some time and set this car up for a good average tune to start with. Playing around with some of these screws and some of the float in the front pod, and generally getting yourself quite a bit of float. There's a lot of places you could adjust this car. You could make an adjustment, drive it, see if you felt like it was better or not, and adjust it back again and try something different. I think it would be a really good learning car. It's set up well out of the box. You can make some changes, you can learn. You've either made it better or you haven't. So here's one last look at this car. I think it's amazing. I think it's brilliant for the money. You can get it at, I think, all good slot car retailers, certainly in the UK. And I say, for personal reasons, because I had one and a lot of happy memories came with that car and that time in my life, I think it's perfect. And, little details. I like the googly-eyed drivers. I like the little rally art decals. I like the car. It drives nicely. It looks great. And Mr. Thumbs Up Man, well, he agrees as well. As always, thanks for watching one of my videos. If you liked it, you will find a button specifically for that. Please subscribe to the channel. It really, really does help, and it's free. And if you press the bell, you'll get a notification the next time I post a video. And as always, check out this slot car channel.